What happens when darkness finally moves in and meets the Son of God face to face in a quiet garden? Why did a kiss, normally a symbol of love, become the signal of betrayal that changed history forever? And in the moment Jesus was arrested, why did he stop violence with a single sentence? No more of this. The night in Gethsemane had already been heavy with prayer, sorrow, and spiritual struggle. Jesus had surrendered in prayer. The disciples had struggled to stay awake, and now the atmosphere shifts completely. The garden is no longer a place of prayer, it becomes a place of arrest. Luke tells us that while Jesus was still speaking to his disciples, a crowd approached. It was late at night. Torches flickered through the olive trees. The silence of the garden was broken by footsteps, weapons, and voices. At the front of the crowd was Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, the man who had walked with Jesus, eaten with him, witnessed miracles, and heard the deepest teachings of the kingdom of God. And now he leads a group of soldiers and officials straight to Jesus. But Judas does not come with shouting or confrontation. He comes with a kiss. He approaches Jesus and says, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kisses him. In that culture, a kiss was a sign of respect and friendship, but here it becomes a signal of betrayal. And Jesus responds with a question that carries deep sorrow. "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" That question is not asked for information. It is a revelation. It exposes the tragedy of what is happening. A moment of intimacy is being used as a tool of betrayal, and that alone reveals something deeply unsettling about human nature. Betrayal rarely looks like betrayal in the beginning. It often wears the disguise of closeness, trust, and familiarity. Judas had access to Jesus in ways others did not, and that access became the pathway for betrayal. But the story does not end there. The disciples, seeing what is happening, react instinctively. One of them, identified in other Gospels as Peter, strikes the servant of the high priest and cuts off his ear. It is a moment of panic mixed with loyalty. They do not fully understand what is unfolding, but they feel the urgency to defend Jesus. Violence erupts in the garden. Fear meets loyalty. Confusion meets action. But Jesus immediately steps in. "No more of this," he says. Then he touches the man's ear and heals him. In the middle of his own arrest, Jesus performs a miracle of restoration. That detail is often overlooked, but it is powerful. Even while being taken away, Jesus is still healing. Even while injustice surrounds him, he is still showing mercy. Even while betrayal unfolds, he is still acting in love. Then Jesus speaks directly to the crowd. "Am I leading a rebellion, that you have come with swords and clubs? Every day I was with you in the temple courts, and you did not lay a hand on me. But this is your hour, when darkness reigns." That final phrase is deeply significant. This is your hour. Jesus is acknowledging that something spiritual is unfolding beyond human politics, fear, or violence. This is the hour when darkness reigns. But even that statement is not despair, it is awareness. Jesus is not confused about what is happening. He is fully aware. And that awareness is what makes this moment so powerful. Because even as darkness appears to take control, Jesus is still in control of himself. He does not resist arrest violently. He does not flee. He does not call down destruction. Instead, he submits. But not as a victim, as someone fully aware of the mission ahead. The soldiers then seize him. They arrest the one who created them. They bind the hands of the one who gives breath to all living things. And in that moment, prophecy begins moving toward its fulfillment. But to understand this moment fully, we need to slow down and see the layers beneath it. Because this is not just a historical arrest, it is a spiritual confrontation. On one side stands human authority, fear, misunderstanding, and religious corruption. On the other stands truth, grace, and divine purpose. And the arrest of Jesus is the point where these two realities collide physically. Judas leads the way, and that detail alone is tragic. He is not forced. He is not confused. He is leading. He chose proximity to Jesus for years, but proximity without surrender eventually becomes meaningless. That is one of the strongest warnings in this passage. Being close to spiritual truth is not the same as being transformed by it. Judas had knowledge without transformation, exposure without surrender, and eventually that gap produced betrayal. But Jesus' response throughout this moment is what defines his character most clearly. He does not panic. He does not retaliate. He does not lose control. Even when Peter reacts with violence, Jesus stops the cycle immediately. He heals the wounded man. That action is almost shocking when you consider the situation. Most people, in the middle of being arrested unjustly, would not prioritize healing an enemy's servant. But Jesus does. Because his kingdom does not advance through violence. It advances through sacrifice. Then Jesus allows himself to be taken. That is crucial. He is not overpowered, he permits it. Earlier in his ministry, Jesus said no one takes his life from him, but he lays it down willingly. This moment confirms that truth. The arrest is not the failure of God's plan, it is the beginning of its fulfillment. But for the disciples, this moment must have felt like collapse. Everything they thought they understood about Jesus is being challenged in real time. The Messiah is being arrested, the teacher is being taken, the miracle worker is bound, fear spreads quickly, and in other accounts the disciples scatter. But in Luke's account, the focus is more on the spiritual meaning of the moment. This is your hour, Jesus says, a temporary permission for darkness to act. But temporary is the key word, because darkness never has final authority in the story of God. Another layer worth noticing is how quickly things shift from prayer to arrest. Just moments earlier, Jesus was in deep prayer in Gethsemane. Now he is being taken away. That transition shows something important about spiritual life. Moments of surrender in prayer often lead directly into moments of testing in reality. Jesus prayed, "Not my will, but yours be done." And immediately, that surrender is tested through arrest. That pattern still exists in human experience. Many moments of spiritual clarity are followed by moments of pressure, and the question becomes whether surrender remains consistent under that pressure. Jesus demonstrates perfect consistency. Prayer and action align completely. Another powerful detail is the presence of betrayal inside closeness. Judas does not approach Jesus from a distance. He comes near. He kisses him. That level of intimacy being used for betrayal is what makes this moment so painful. It reveals that betrayal is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it is subtle, hidden beneath familiarity. That is why Jesus' question to Judas matters so deeply. Are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? It exposes contradiction between appearance and reality, between relationship and intention, between outward respect and inward betrayal. And that contradiction is something every generation must reflect on. Because spiritual integrity is not measured by proximity alone, it is measured by the condition of the heart. Then the arrest unfolds fully. The crowd seizes Jesus and takes him away. The night that began with prayer now moves toward trial. But even in arrest, Jesus remains composed. There is no resistance, there is no fear controlling him, there is only purpose. That purpose will lead to the cross, and ultimately resurrection. But at this moment, none of the disciples fully understand what is happening. They are still processing shock. Confusion replaces clarity, fear replaces confidence. But Jesus walks forward with clarity intact. That contrast between Jesus and everyone else in the scene is striking. He is calm, they are shaken, he is aware, they are confused, he is surrendered, they are reacting. That difference highlights his unique role in this entire event. He is not just a participant in history, he is the center of it. Another important reflection from this passage is how Jesus interprets the moment spiritually. This is your hour. That suggests that even darkness operates within limits. It has a time, not permanent authority. That idea brings hope into the darkest parts of the story, because even when evil appears dominant, it is still under restriction. It cannot go beyond what God ultimately allows for a greater purpose. And in this case, that purpose is redemption. The arrest is not the end of Jesus' mission. It is the doorway into it. Without arrest, there is no trial. Without trial, there is no crucifixion. Without crucifixion, there is no atonement. And without atonement, there is no forgiveness. So even the moment that looks like defeat is actually part of salvation unfolding. But in real time, the disciples cannot see that yet. They only see loss. That is often how human perception works in difficult moments. Understanding comes later, but Jesus already sees the full picture. That is why he remains steady. Another layer in this passage is the healing of the servant's ear. That moment shows that even in the presence of betrayal and injustice, Jesus still expresses mercy. He does not allow hatred to define his final actions before arrest. He chooses compassion. That decision reveals something essential about his character. Even when wronged, he does not become like those who wrong him. Instead, he remains consistent with his nature, love even under pressure. Then the arrest continues. Jesus is taken away into the night, and the garden falls silent again. But it is no longer the silence of prayer, it is the silence of unfolding purpose. The next steps will lead to trial, rejection, suffering, and ultimately the cross. But none of it is accidental. Everything is moving according to a plan far larger than what anyone in that garden could see. And that is what makes this moment so important, because it shows that even when darkness seems active, God is still in control of the story. Thank you for watching this video. If this message helped you understand the depth and meaning behind Jesus' arrest in Luke 22:47-53, please like the video, subscribe to Holy Path Insights, and share it with someone who needs encouragement today. May we learn from this moment to trust God even when circumstances feel unclear, to remain faithful under pressure, and to remember that even in darkness, God's purpose is never defeated.